A letter from an Iranian American mother of a gay son. My son was 3 or 4 years old when I started to notice that he was different than his older brother. Nothing too serious, but just little things like he preferred to play with dolls with his girl cousins instead of playing sports with his boy cousins. Or he seemed to enjoy watching the girl cartoons and asking for baking sets and other girl toys instead of the cars and trucks that his brother always asked for. Of course, as traditional Iranian parents, his father and I would gently discourage him from such things and instead insist that he play with his brother, and although I noticed that this made him very sad and quiet, I knew in my heart that we were doing the right thing for him. When my son was 12 years old, one day my husband walked in on him as he was flipping through some magazines that had pictures of half-naked men. My husband was shocked, and he grabbed the magazines and ripped them up and told my son that he's disgusting for looking at these pictures. My son said nothing. He just cried and apologized. My husband and I made sure from then on to casually in conversation teach our son how men should act and how men who have feelings for other men are unclean and sick people. At every opportunity, we would belittle homosexuals and would joke about them. And soon, we were very happy because our tactics seemed to have worked. By the age of 16, my son was playing sports and getting into fights and bringing home girlfriends. His grades had dropped and he continued to not talk to us much. But even so, we were happy because we thought that we had put an end to that phase of his life. At age 18, my son started college. To our surprise, because we were always a very close-knit family, he decided to leave Los Angeles and attend community college in Northern California. Even though we were against him leaving at first, we decided we would let him do this, just because he seemed so sad and angry all the time that we were hoping this would make him happy. During his 3rd semester in college, one night we got a call from the hospital that our son had overdosed on drugs and we needed to go and pick him up. When we got there, we were shocked by how thin he looked. And when the doctors told us that he has a drug problem, we really couldn't believe it. We brought him back to Los Angeles, and without letting anyone in our family find out, we placed him in a rehab facility. One day, during a family therapy session at the rehab, through a lot of tears and apologies, my son told us that he was gay. It was as if I had been hit by a ton of bricks. I just couldn't believe it. I began to cry uncontrollably and told him that he's mistaken, that this can't be true. My husband yelled some obscenities and told him and the therapist that he would rather my son have cancer than be gay, and with that, he walked out the door. When we got home, my husband and I discussed how horrified we were and how we couldn't believe this was happening to us. We couldn't understand how our son had gotten this illness. We decided that we can never let any of our friends or family know, and that we would find a doctor or therapist to help him get better. When we finally brought our son home from rehab, we shared our plan with him. We told him that this is an illness and that he should never act on it, and that we will take him to doctors and to therapy until he's cured. And above all, we asked him that he doesn't share this with anyone else. My son began to cry and said, "Mama, I don't think this is an illness. I think this is just who I am. However, I will do whatever you and Baba want me to do because I want you guys to be happy and not be so ashamed of me." And he did just that. For the next 2 years, my son regularly went to the doctor to get hormone therapy, and the doctor told us it would help him recover from his sickness. And after meeting with a number of therapists, all of whom told us that this isn't a sickness and you shouldn't try and cure it, we finally found one therapist who told us exactly what we wanted to hear, that this is an illness and that with therapy it can be cured. So immediately we started taking my son to that therapist every week. It seemed to be working. My son started to work with his father in the real estate business, where he was doing very well for himself. He began to talk to us more and smile more and got out with his friends. And we were overjoyed when he started dating a very nice Iranian girl, and they started to speak about getting married. About 3 weeks after his engagement party, my son came over one night with tears in his eyes. He asked me and his father to sit down because he had something important he wanted to discuss with us. He told us that he's breaking off the engagement because he can't continue to lie to everyone, especially to his fiancée who he loved very much, and he didn't want to ruin her life. He said that he did everything we asked him to do and tried really hard to live as a straight man, but that he just couldn't. He asked that we give him a chance and that we go to family therapy sessions with him so that we could work this problem out. He pleaded with us to accept him and allow him to show us that he is still a good person even though he's gay. Once again, I began to cry and his father left the house. I told him that we come from a culture and live in a community that will never accept this. I told him that I think being gay is disgusting and that I would never be able to show my face in society again if he did this. I begged him to reconsider and go through with this wedding. My son told me he loved me and hugged me and apologized for everything and for making me feel so ashamed and unhappy, and promised me that he would take care of everything. Then he went home that night and took his own life. When I look back on everything now, I think to myself, who was that person who didn't take the time to listen and understand what her son was telling her? For 25 years, my son tried to do everything in his power to become the person we told him he needs to be. And not one time did we try and look at things from his perspective and try to learn and understand where he was coming from. Every time my husband and I, through our words and actions, shamed him into submitting to our desires without ourselves to be good parents, and we felt like we had won. In reality, we had lost. Everything our culture and society had told us about homosexuality was so important to us that we never thought to stop and consider the possibility that there may be other perspectives. We never thought to update or educate ourselves. It's unbelievable to me as I sit here today writing this letter that my beliefs and values and how others would think of me and my family were more important to me than my son. I write this letter to you today because I hope and pray that our community will begin to shift their perspective on homosexuality. I hope and pray that other parents will do what my husband and I could not do and educate themselves on what it means to be gay. My son was smart, kind, successful, and a valuable member of our community. But back then, when I looked at him, all I saw was a sick boy. I paid a very big price for my intolerance and rigidity. I hope others will make a better choice before it's too late. I hope our community will realize that each time they judge someone for being gay or make a sly comment or a mean joke, that they are in reality telling a person that they are worthless and adding to their suffering. We might think it's not important and not serious, but for our children, it can become a matter of life and death.